I imagine we'll get full attendance shortly. Good afternoon and welcome. Being recorded, got it. Gotta close this box. Good afternoon and welcome to the Ann Arbor DDA's November 2021 board meeting. My name is Tyler Kinley and I am the DDA board chair. Given that this is a virtual meeting, I will go over details for today's meeting. It is important to note that the DDA is allowed to continue holding virtual meetings as authorized under the amended Open Meetings Act, extending the authority for public bodies to conduct electronic virtual meetings through December 31st, 2021, due to the local state of emergency declared by the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners as of March 17th, 2021, and to continue through December 31st, 2021, due to the sustained presence of COVID-19. DDA board members are participating via video and audio. DDA staff and other attendees are participating via audio only. The chat function is enabled for committee members and other DDA board members to indicate you wish to speak. DDA staff members participating in today's meeting are Maura Thompson, Sarah McCallum, Jada Hallbrook, and Kelly Graves. Already got a hand up here, we'll get to you in a sec. Thank you to members of the public who are joining us today. Your microphone will be muted during the meeting. Time has been set aside at the end of the meeting for public comment. We ask that DDA members and staff members identify yourself before speaking. When not speaking, please mute your microphone. The chat function is enabled for use by the DDA board members during the meeting to indicate you wish to speak. A reminder that during roll call, please state your physical location in addition to your first and last name. Maura, if you'd please open the meeting with a roll call of the DDA board.
Certainly. Micah Bartelme.
President attending from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Alex Deek. Milton Dehoney.
Present in Ann Arbor.
Jihei Kim. Tyler Kinley.
Present, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Marie Clough.
Present, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Jessica Lita.
Present, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Molly McFarland. Darren McKinnon.
Present, Ann Arbor.
Jonathan Massey.
Present in Ann Arbor.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to approve the board meeting agenda? A motion to approve the board meeting agenda in a second, please.
This is Jessica. I move to approve the board meeting agenda.
This is Mike. I'll second that.
Thank you. We're doing great in Robert's rules. Feels great. Are there any changes to the board meeting agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. The agenda for today's DDA meeting is approved. We do have two people who signed up ahead of time to speak. We have Jeff Crockett and Alan Haber with us. Jeff, you may go first. You will have 4 minutes to speak. You have the floor, Mr. Jeff Crockett. Mr. Crockett, are you with us? You may be muted. Right now, I see you are muted. I just wanted to check in.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem at all. You have the floor.
I'm really excited to be here. I know some of you. I know Jessica, I think Maura, Kelly, and I may have met a few others, but I'm hoping to meet all of you sometime in the near future. Many of you know my wife. My wife and I have lived at 506 East Kingsley since 1980 and have participated in CAC meetings for about 20 years. We've been strong supporters of the DDA, and some of you may have remembered that when opposition to the DDA was raised within the last few years, we rose to the DDA's defense. We see the DDA as having a great visionary role for the downtown. And Susan Pale, we consider her to be a friend of ours. We are also founders of the 04th Ward Association, and Ray Detter, who for many years ran the CAC, is our vice president. We asked Maura to forward our 04th Ward newsletter, which I hope you got. I hope you have a chance to read at some point, because it describes in detail what we're all about. And basically, the newsletter includes information about local businesses, local history, 820, downtown living, our connection with U of M's Beyond the Diag program, local gardens, and includes our work on the community garden on the library lot. And we are very excited about this work, and I hope you've had the time to read the story of the community garden, which will give you an overview. Our volunteers have booked over 420 hours in developing what was a very successful and beautiful garden this year. But we have a new addition of Joette Rioma, who is a co-director of Project Grow. And we see a great opportunity for the 14 plots of land on the commons to become potentially Project Grow sites. And we would like to share this possibility and opportunity with you. I know in working with Maura, we're acutely aware that the budget for public parking has been down. So you have not been able to adequately maintain the 14 plots of land. Some of you may know that when we saw that there was poison ivy on one of the plots that it had spread, Joette scooped it all up. So we're there to partner with you and to pick up where we feel Republic parking hasn't been pick up due to budget cuts. And for that reason, we would like to put the community garden on your agenda for a future meeting. We understand from Maura that you have a protocol for that involves requesting requesting to some subcommittee, and I would like you to do that now, or advise us on how to do that. I am not familiar with how the subcommittee system works, but I want to learn more about it. But this is also about establishing personal relationships. It's a real problem using a Zoom. So I'm going to follow up on the last 4 minutes of the public input with continuing this conversation. But this involves what I am going to do in the second part of this is to introduce you to the individuals, to the volunteers who have been involved in this project. I'm hoping that at some point we can meet in person or at a Zoom. There's just so much to talk about. Thank you very much for your time.
Tyler, you're muted.
Yep,
Sorry.
I'm catching up. I'm muted and I'm unmuting. Thank you very much, Mr. Crockett. Next up, we have Mr. Alan Haber. Mr. Haber, you have the floor. Is Mr. Haber with us? I am checking. I'm not seeing his name.
Yeah, I don't see him on Tyler.
All right.
We did have someone else request. They sent me a message. So if we want to let them go ahead and then see if Alan joins.
Sure.
Eric,
So
Eric.
we've had another person sign up, so they will also have 4 minutes. Yeah. Do we have a
Okay.
name?
Yep, Mr. Lipson, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate your letting me speak here. First, I'd like to say welcome to Mr. Dehoney. We appreciate your jumping into the position of city manager at a very controversial time in Ann Arbor, and we wish you the best of luck. I always like to start out with positive things. Let me say that the DDA and the Ann Arbor Art Association has done some very exciting things with the murals at the Klein lot, which is already attracting a lot of attention, people having their photos taken in front of it. That's the kind of creative thing that the DDA has excelled in. And I hope that you will continue that in other areas. The other thing I'd like to note is that Dean Massey, Jonathan Massey, who is the Dean of the Art and Architecture School and also on your board, recently spoke on WUOM on changing public spaces. It was a very interesting and exciting talk in which he talked about all of the ways in which you can activate everything, including individual parking spaces and public parks and parklets. With that said, I would like to ask why the DDA has not been taking any actions whatsoever, any creative actions on the library lot, above the library. Though 3 years ago, the city voted to turn that into a public space. I've only seen foot dragging from the DDA. I would say to Dean Massey, are you going to are you going to walk the walk or merely talk the talk? Here is a public space which is looking to be activated, which is the only person who has done so is Alan Haber, who has in fact done many of the same things that Dean Massey has been talking about in his various discussions, including having book sales and public meetings and peace conferences and concerts. This one man, Alan Haber, has done what the DDA has not done in all of those years.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'd like to just add one other thing. I've also been participating in that I have set up, as you can see in my screenshot there, my decadomes for use as offices to all of these events. And I would offer that for free to set up a decadome on the library lot to act as an office. It gives both eyes on the park, because unlike the one in the picture, it's got windows in all directions. And it is a symbol that something is happening there. It can be used as an office for all of the events that occur. And hopefully we'll be doing that again starting on Sunday. So again, my challenge to you is do something. Don't just talk about all of the wonderful things that can be done when in fact you have the opportunity to do it. And I would certainly encourage the DDA to do so, including having U of M classes to participate, which is one of the interesting things which I've done with the University of School of Engineering, which have helped me enormously. And I'm sure that if you stick the U of M class on designing something on the library lot, you would get amazing results. So I challenge you to do that, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lipson. Have we gotten Alan Haber back so that he may have his 4 minutes? I'm scrolling and I do not see his name.
Yeah, I don't see him on here, Tyler.
Shoot. I hate to have him lose his time here.
He comes at the end. He'll have time at the end as well if he wants to.
Certainly. He just had signed up. So I like to give people their allotted time. Okay, well, thank you, Jeff and Eric, for your comments. Very appreciated. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the DDA at this time? Seeing no hands raised myself. Kelly, any hands raised I'm missing?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, well, seeing and hearing none, we will move to reports from city boards and commissions. I believe we have a CAC meeting report from Peter Honeyman.
Hi, I'm Peter Honeyman, zooming in from downtown Ann Arbor. At last night's Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council meeting, a dozen downtown residents and near neighbors gathered on Zoom for a discussion that focused mostly on the CAC's authority and role looking forward. There are a lot of vacancies on the CAC, and we're looking for ways to encourage more downtown residents to participate, looking especially to broaden the diversity of outlooks on the council. We will be reaching out to DDA leadership for guidance and feedback as we strive to keep the CAC a useful and relevant tool for the DDA and the City Council by providing a voice for downtown area residents. that is all.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter. Are there any, Peter, I guess I just follow up real quick. Are there any places that people should look to online or for information, for follow-up if they'd like to become members or?
Yeah, we're going to ask, there is kind of a CAC webpage on the DDA web space, and we're going to ask DDA to do a little bit of work on that, including how to self-nominate
Okay.
to get on the council. But we
Yeah,
also
all right,
are
well,
looking.
Well, we'll look for further information. I just wanted to give you the floor here while you're speaking.
Yeah, well, we're gonna look to DDA members for help on this in identifying downtown residents. Strictly speaking, membership on the council is not necessary for having influence in the council, and I would say half or more of our members of the people who participate are not downtown area, not in the DDA zone, but are near neighbors. But we will be looking to DDA board members for suggestions on, or at least for help on, prompting folks to come to our meetings, participate and see what it's about, and then perhaps self-nominating after that.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
the report. Next up is DDA members communications. Please state your name before you speak. Do we have any members of the DDA board that would like to make any announcements, statements, comments here? All right, seeing none, I will now turn it over to Maura Thompson. Maura, you have the floor for the executive director report.
Thank you, Tyler. I have a few items to review. First, I want to extend an official warm welcome to Mr. Dohoney. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We know you have a very busy schedule, and we look forward to working with you. I will have the privilege in my interim capacity of meeting with you every other week, and I think we're on tap for tomorrow. So looking forward to that. Yep. We had our annual DDA City Council parking work session on October 12th. Staff reviewed kind of high-level parking system operations and some more detailed financial information, and then fielded some questions from council. I want to extend a thank you to board members Alex Deek, Tyler Kinley, Micah Bartelme, and Jonathan Massey for attending that meeting and participating. That was very much appreciated. I want to call your attention to the last page of your board packet. You will find the DDA board and committee meeting schedule for 2022. Thank you to Kelly for putting that together. You'll note that some of the committee meetings have been changed to reflect city holidays, and then the October board meeting has also been moved from a Wednesday to a Thursday in observance of Yom Kippur. And we'll continue to remind you of those items, of course, as the time goes on. The DDA's second informational meeting of the year will be coming up immediately prior to your December 1st board meeting. This is a meeting, state statute requires the DDA to have 2 informational meetings a year. And as a reminder, we do those meetings in June and then again in December. So this will meet our requirement. And then just a few quick staff items. One, really happy to report that DDA Capital Projects Manager Amber Miller will be returning from her extended leave this coming Monday, November 8th. And I know you all know the heavy load that Amber carries around here. So we are just more than thrilled to have her talent back, but also just to have her back in the office. So that's really good news. And the final thing I wanted to report on, and Jess kind of touched a little bit on this in her comments. I wanted the board to know that staff has been doing a weekly lunch and learn where we've been listening to the 1619 project. All city staff went through a series of DEI sessions over the last maybe year and a half, and we wanted to be sure that we kept the dialogue going within our office. And I think and I hope that I speak for staff when I say the hour that we spend together listening and discussing the work of Nicole Hannah-Jones has been really meaningful, oftentimes emotional, and it's just really valuable time that we spend together. And so I know the podcast has been out for a while, but I just encourage you, if you haven't listened yet, totally worth a listen. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Maura. That's great to hear all the updates. A lot of things going on. Now we need to get a motion and a second to approve the October minutes. May I have a motion to approve the October minutes and a second, please?
Tyler, this is Mike. I'd like to move to approve the October minutes.
Marie, you were muted. Can I just I think we just gotta go through the process here. Can someone just say,
This is Marie, I second.
wonderful, appreciate it. We're gonna get it right. The muting is always a challenge, especially for me. We have a motion and a second to approve the board, to approve the October minutes. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. The October minutes are approved. Thank you. Next, moving forward on the agenda are the DDA subcommittee reports. We'll begin with the Finance Committee. I'm going to now turn it over to the Finance Committee co-chairs, Micah Bartelme and Marie Klopf.
Thank you, Tyler. We actually have a resolution to bring to the board. So we're moving the following resolution to accept the DDA's audited financial statements for the fiscal year 2021. Could I have a second before we go any further in discussion?
This is Jess, second.
Thank you, Jess. Some background information here. We did have our YEO and YEO auditor, Dan Beard, attend the committee meeting, and he walked the committee members through the details of the audit. The DDA received a clean audit. Congratulations. No difficulties were encountered, no corrections or audit adjustments made, no finding or issues to report, which is a testament to the good work the staff has done, particularly Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. Dan commended Sarah for her excellent preparation and responsiveness throughout the audit process. And it was, I believe, one of the cleanest and easiest that we've had to date. So thank you to Sarah and to everybody involved. On the financial statements, the committee did review the FY22 first quarter financial statements, and the committee also approved the monthly expense reports. So I think, Tyler, we're going to have to take that resolution to a vote here.
Wonderful. All those in favor of the, well, is there any discussion on this? Sounds like everything went really well. My experience with auditors is that sometimes they find things just to prove that they're looking around. So for them to say we found nothing is just fantastic and a testament to the good work of the DDA and Sarah and everybody. So congratulations. Are there any discussion beyond me right now? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution to accept the DDA's audited financial statements for fiscal year 2021, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. The resolution passes. Micah, Marie, do you want to?
Excellent. Thanks, Tyler. I think that concludes the committee report for the financial committee. The next finance committee is scheduled for Thursday, January 27th, 2022 at 9 a.m. And that is because the November finance committee meeting is canceled and no meeting is scheduled for December.
Wow, already in 2022, the future. Wonderful. Thank you, Micah. And I guess we'll move ahead here to the Operations Committee. That is myself and Jonathan Massey as committee co-chairs. I'll turn it over here to Jonathan Massey. Jonathan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tyler. So in our most recent operations committee meeting, we tackled a couple of issues. First, we had a monthly update on parking revenue, parking system financials through September of this year. And the board meeting packet includes the slides from that update. After my report, Sarah can join us in answering any follow-up questions that folks may have about the parking system revenue update. The second topic that we focused on was the 20-year maintenance plan for the parking system. The DDA, as most of you know, is contractually obligated to maintain the city-owned parking system. And we have a 20-year plan that's updated every 3 years. The engineer from WGI, our consultant, who joined us, stressed the importance of maintaining the parking structures and credited DDA with maintaining them at a very high level. So we also touched on the question of when and how does the DDA consider end of life for pieces of parking infrastructure, recognizing that the structures themselves have physical obsolescence over a long time horizon, and also that the needs of the city of Ann Arbor may change in the future. So we just acknowledge that this is a question as we move forward to reflect on. The third topic we addressed was parking system updates from Jada, who is also with us today and can follow up to help answer questions on this. Jada shared that we have received 6 responses to the parking operator RFP, and that we aim to bring a recommendation. She aims to bring a recommendation to the committee in November or December. Responses to the engineering services RFP are due in the middle of this month, mid-November. The curb management study RFP responses likewise are due in mid-November. And finally, in that context, we also touched on the question of how DDA evaluates its RFP response pools and its procurement processes in general, but in particular through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. And we learned at that meeting from Maura that the DDA has identified this as a topic to address. We are short-staffed and have limited bandwidth at the moment, but this is one of our goals to consider how best to integrate our DEI goals into our procurement practices and processes. And then the last thing I have for the update is that Chris Simmons announced that he has accepted a position in Washington State and that AAATA will work to fill his position. So that concludes my report.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure having you on the Ops Committee. I think you bring a fresh look and a deep dive reporting style that's I think it's helpful to everyone to sort of get the good overview. I mean, it's good, and we're getting into stuff there. So appreciate it. Moving forward to the Executive Director Search Committee. I'll give a brief overview. We can open up to a couple questions if people have them from the board. But the committee held our first round interviews with 4 candidates recently on Thursday, October 28th. We then met subsequently the day after on Friday, October 29th. And we selected 3 candidates in a deliberation meeting to bring forward for the second round interviews with the full board. Those are scheduled in less than a week on Monday, November 8th. I believe it's at 9 a.m. And after that, we will have a deliberation meeting on Tuesday, November 9th. That's a pretty quick overview that really lightly skims the surface of a whole lot of work that has gone into this process. I'm open to discussing it, answering any relatively brief questions here. I don't think we need to get too deep into it. But do we have any questions or discussion or updates from fellow search committee members about this?
This is Jess. I'll just say I appreciate the conversations that I'm having with the search committee. I appreciate that there's a willingness to deeply engage and ask a lot of questions. It would be really easy in this time of remote meeting to sort of mail it in. And I really don't get that sense from any of the four of us or any of the candidates, and definitely not from staff. So I just appreciate that everyone is treating this with the gravity that it deserves. And I constantly feel challenged in the best possible way by the questions and perspectives that the committee members are offering. So I'm deeply enjoying the process and feel like it's going to lead to a good outcome whenever it does.
Yeah, we're getting in there. We're doing the work. We're enjoying it. But it is challenging in all the right ways. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me or any member of the search committee. We'll be happy to fill you in as best we can. Also, the meetings have been public. So it's been interesting to have these discussions and frankly, the interviews in public, but there's a certain aspect of it that's very refreshing, that it's all out in the open. Moving forward is the Capital Improvements Committee. Committee Chair Alex Deek unfortunately could not be here today, so I'm going to lead the presentation. However, that will be minimal because I'm really going to hand it off. I'll get to that in a sec. The People Friendly Streets Phase 2 was reviewed. The committee received updates on the current and upcoming projects. Oliver Kiley from Smith Group and Chris Wall from Wade Trim are both attending today's meeting right now. They're going to just give some updates. Oftentimes, I spoke with Maura about this. The CIC has had a pretty deep bench of attendees. It's been relatively light, presumably because people's schedules are busy. Zoom is falling on odd times, or you're in other committees. I know I usually attend and I was not able to. So they're going to go over a couple of the projects because these are often exciting. A lot of the work of the DDA that the public really sees and interacts with. So it's good for board members and others, public, to be aware. So Oliver and Chris, you have the floor to give us a review of the projects. Just making sure everyone.
There we go. I'm
There
here.
we go. Yep.
This is Oliver Kiley. I think I'll just jump right into things and keep us moving. So thank you all for letting us present and provide an update here. We have a few slides kind of walking through our projects, and Chris or Maura, feel free to jump in and interject if I miss something. And then I think if there's any questions at the end from the DDA board, we can discuss those. So People Friendly Streets, quick update on where we are with the State Street design project and getting that out to bid for construction next year. The Miller and Catherine Bikeway project, Division Street and the William Street enhancements that are ongoing this fall. I'll provide some overview of that, and then an update on First and Ashley Street as that project is wrapping up. So just a map of where all of these are for everyone's reference. Most everyone's familiar with these, but we have some new folks attending. So First and Ashley Street, as you know, the two-way restoration was completed earlier this year, and really there's just a handful of small punch list items that the contractor will be finishing up on that project. One addition is that on Ashley Street between Washington and Liberty, there are going to be some tree grates, and some of the tree pits are going to be cleaned up and improved. So that work is still pending and is scheduled to be starting soon this fall. And then I'll provide more detail, but the Division Street Bikeway project is under construction right now. And then the William Street enhancement, which I'll explain, will also be starting this fall. And then looking ahead to next year, we're on track for the DDA's portion, which we're calling phase 1 of the State Street project. We'll actually go up to Huron Street down to William will be phase 1. Looking at the Miller and Catherine Bikeway as it goes through the DDA, that's the purple number 2 project here. And then 4th Ave project is still being coordinated along with the affordable housing project at the old Y lot site. So as always, just want to reiterate the values that we're using that underpin our design work and working with the DDA. These are the adopted shared values for the People Friendly Streets Initiative that the DDA board approved last year during the summer. And so again, these values are used during our planning and design process to help inform our projects and make smart decisions. And then we can use these same values after implementation to understand success and impact to the community. Okay, in a little bit more detail, getting into State Street, just a reminder of how this project is broken up. So in next year, 2022, will be the phase 1 portion of the project, which is from Huron Street down to William, and a little bit of improvement along North U over to Thayer Street. And this is really where the DDA has made their contribution into the project through kind of rethinking the street, moving towards a curbless design, and many of the conversations that we've been having with you on that. And I'll share an update of where the design status is. There is also water main work and resurfacing work that is occurring as part of that project. And that's in collaboration and partnership with the city to help provide funding on that portion of it. And then in 2024, a city-funded, city-directed project will be phase 2, which extends water main and resurfacing work further to the south on State and further to the east on North University. So yeah, that's an update kind of where the scopes of those two are. Just want to let everyone know that we continue to do a lot of stakeholder engagement and outreach as part of the work. As you all know, State Street has a lot of constituents, a lot of activity, a lot of use happening there. So making sure that we hear from everybody and hear from all of the different user groups of that corridor is really critical. There were community engagement sessions back in March of this year that really helped set the direction for the design of State Street. Since then, we've had multiple meetings with the RIDE, AAATA. We have had a number of meetings with the fire department, including one that was also on site with the State Street District Association members and representatives from the art fair. We had the quintessential art fair experience of going out there in the absolute pouring rain and getting to look at everything that was going on. It was actually very informative because we got to see, where a lot of the drainage problems are and things like that. We could see that all firsthand, see how the booths were laid out and making sure that our design work can accommodate that important event. Continue to coordinate with U of M, just to remind everyone again, on the water main portion of the work and on some of the road resurfacing, U of M is also a partner on those projects. In agreement with the city. So U of M has been a close collaborator as well. And we've had a number of coordination meetings with them as the design work advances. And then also, as I mentioned, engaging the State Street District Association. We've had a number of meetings and updates with that group. And then on the biking and walking coalition with Washtenaw County and then Common Cycle, 2 groups that we're engaging to make sure that we're addressing design from a biking and walking standpoint. Again, these were taking the kind of core values for the People Friendly Streets project and translating them into specific goals for State Street. And these really came out of the March workshop sessions. So we know we want to improve lighting, pedestrians are the predominant user in that area. So really prioritizing for their comfort and safety. We absolutely need to accommodate buses and service vehicles. Opportunities to improve drainage and better manage stormwater, support the ability of the street to be used for special events and street closures and supporting the commercial activity there, greater flexibility, all of those kinds of things are the core goals in the design. And so there's a rendering, conceptual snapshot of how the street design is evolving. As you all recall, this is being proposed as a curbless street design. which will be one of Ann Arbor's firsts. And we're using curbed planters near the intersection corners for some landscape and to help kind of bookend those parking areas. The intent, again, with the curbless design is that it really allows for very fluid expansion and utilization of the curbside zone for other kinds of uses, whether that's outdoor cafe dining or retailing. This is a very tight corridor with a lot of pedestrian space. And so having that flexible curbside lane without a curb to negotiate is really seen as a benefit by the business community there. And we're hoping that with this curbside lane being curbless too, we'll start to move away from the paradigm of having tons of metered parking spaces. We're really even hearing from the business communities directly that, the 2-hour standard meter parking is probably the least critical of all of those, but commercial loading and unloading, places for quick passenger pickup and drop off, or 15-minute parking, those kinds of uses are more important, as well as being able to do things like curbside dining. So this design should support that well. We're really getting into the late stages of the design documentation and kind of going through picking out materials and all of those things. In curbless street designs, the material selections are really important for getting a design that reads properly for drivers and pedestrians, so people know how to use the space and how to move within it. This is just an example of a curbless street project we worked on in Midland, Michigan. Similar to this project, we're proposing a mix of standard concrete that has an exposed aggregate finish, which would actually be in the driveway in our design or in the travel lanes in part. So as drivers are going down the street, they're actually getting some tactile feedback about the speed that they're driving with that material. And then also using some colored concrete as accent material to help differentiate between sidewalk and amenity zone and parking areas. And then just a reminder too, some of the other overall elements of this core project. So there's lane reconfigurations that are happening, reducing the travel lanes down to just a single travel lane in each direction. That's adding additional curbside space on the east side of State Street. We're able to create a new plaza space at the corner of State and North University. There's a bicycle connection, a low stress bicycle connection that's being proposed through here. Raised intersections, and then the Liberty intersection and the North University intersection are being proposed to have all walk pedestrian phases. And then just a note, I won't go through all the details on this one, but the existing has about 27 parking spaces and 2 loading zones along the street. And the future design expands that to about 36 kind of flexible curbside spaces. So in kind of putting it in terms of parking space equivalent, because those could be used for, again, commercial dining or an expansion of the sidewalk area in a more flexible manner. 3 to 4 loading zones and additional passenger pickup and drop off areas as well. So the current working time frame for the State Street project, we're on track to have kind of 100% construction set pulled together in December, and we're working closely with the city to review all of that. And the current working plan is that this would go out to bid in January, shortly after the start of the new year. Bids from contractors would be due back in February, so they'd have 4 weeks or so to get bids back. And then potentially DDA approval in March. The construction contract is planned to be held by the city, since they're also going to be managing the phase 2 portion of the project. So our understanding is that this will have to go to council for approval of the construction contract. So that would likely occur in April. And then construction would begin as soon as that contract approval is in place and as soon as frost laws permit construction work to start. So we heard from the businesses that front loading the construction and getting that started as early in the year as possible is going to be huge. And of course, we have major events like graduation in May and the art fair that we'll need to coordinate the construction timing around as well. All right, update on Miller and Catherine. So the Miller-Catherine bikeway, just a reminder, we did a pilot test for this bikeway back in 2020. That was favorable, the public feedback that we garnered from that pilot study. We've made a number of refinements and changes to the design. Continue to have some outreach and engagement with stakeholders and property owners along this corridor. This is also planned for 2022 implementation. And one of the main drivers for this, as a reminder, is that at the corner of 4th Ave and Catherine Street is a city-owned parking lot. That's the target for an affordable housing project. And there's water main work in that area that the DDA is able to contribute towards doing that water main work in order to support that affordable housing project. So we want to get that work done, and it's an opportunity to implement the bikeway as part of that. There's just a picture from the pilot project when that was set up. Again, the big difference was that the pilot project had a two-way bike facility on the north side of the road. We're shifting it to the south side of the road. For the permanent installation, that resolves a lot of some of the challenges and some of the complexities that we had to deal with during the pilot are resolved in a better manner with moving that to the south side of the road. So you can see kind of a working example of how that's going. This is proposed to extend on the west end to the First Street Bikeway and make a connection to that. Extending to the east, the block between Ashley and North Main Street, we've completed an initial traffic assessment. We're still waiting on the final report for that. North Main Street is an MDOT owned roadway, and the traffic study is highlighting that we probably will need to maintain that left turn lane that exists out there today, which is a little different from what the pilot project was indicating. With that, though, I guess in every challenge is an opportunity. That does mean that in order to get the bikeway through there, we need to move curbs on that one block. The streetscape is in pretty rough shape on the south side of the road. So I think this is an opportunity to get both the bikeway in there and make some needed streetscape improvements on that side of the road and kind of tie those two needs together. With the First and Ashley, the Ann and Ashley parking garage that's right there, there is an entrance to that right on the Miller Ave. So you do get a lot of pedestrians walking up and down that section of the road, you know, connecting into downtown on the east. So improvements there from a pedestrian standpoint would be great to take advantage of. Again, this purple shaded box at the corner of Catherine and 4th Ave is where the affordable housing site is. So this block will also have a bit more intensive construction with the water main work. And then this would continue further to the east and connect to the Division Street Bikeway that is currently under construction. And then the tentative time frame for this one is lagging a little bit behind State Street in terms of the sequencing. So thinking that we construction document review completed in February, out to bid in March, bids due at the end of March, DDA approval potentially in April, and then construction would start a little bit later that year. We don't anticipate this project being as intensive of a construction project as some of the last few projects have been. So a start a little bit later in the year should be okay from that standpoint.
Oliver, it's Maura, can I jump in for one moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to point out, and many of you may already know this, but the city will be holding public engagement sessions to talk about some of the potential plans for the American Rescue Plan funds that they have. And one of the projects that is being brought forward is the extending a bikeway on Miller. So there is the potential, depending on how the outreach goes and what the city does with those American Rescue Plan funds, that bikeway could be extended. So I thought that was exciting if it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had some conversation about, even as part of this effort about where we end the bikeway as on this project, if it stops at First where it meets the existing bikeway or continues another block down to Miller and Chapin Street, and potentially make some improvements at Chapin, the way that that's signalized, or it's not signalized today, but maybe it becomes an all stop intersection or something like that. And that could tie into a bikeway that Maura just referenced that could extend, potentially all the way out to the city limit on Miller Ave. So that would be an exciting thing to have happen. Okay, Division Street. So this project is currently under construction. Again, this was one that was pilot tested last year with a temporary installation. This was the most well-used and kind of strongly supported of all of those pilot projects. And again, the reason why the DDA was able to implement and move quickly on this project this year was there was bond money left over in the First and Ashley Street project due to scope adjustments on that project, and that added bond money created an opportunity to use that money to make this improvement happen. And so this will run from Packard Street north all the way to Catherine Street. Unlike the pilot project, we'll be maintaining 2 travel lanes the whole length through on this and making some signal and intersection improvements at some key locations to make that happen and to make that work in a safe, comfortable manner. Just a note too, in terms of connections outside of the DDA, we've also ability could extend further to the south on Division Street as well. And that's another project that the city has been looking at. So we made some changes to the design at their request to be able to accommodate that in the future. So I think that's good to see all the heads talking to each other and having this system make sense. And so just a reminder on the design for this, it's a little different than how the William Street was initially installed. So the proposal on Division Street and what's being constructed as we speak is that there's going to be a 2-way bike facility on the east side of the road. And then rather than having a paint and bollard or paint and delineator median, this is actually a curbed median, more similar to the First Street bikeway. So there'll be gaps in there, of course, for driveways and all of those kinds of things. But this is under construction and moving forward. There is also resurfacing work that's happening north of Huron. I believe if you were driving through that area, the roadway was all milled down a few days ago, and I believe the resurfacing is happening tomorrow. And so the other thing that's happening as part of this work too is that there are some enhancements happening to the William Street bikeway that's been in place for almost 2 years now at this point, and we're able to see how it's been working. The biggest thing that we've heard feedback from the city's standpoint relates to maintenance, and particularly snow maintenance around the kind of paint and post approach to the bikeway buffer. So like with the Division Street design, the buffer on William Street is actually being reconstructed to have a curbed buffer as well. So there'll be that hard kind of physical separation between the bikeway and the travel lane. In talking with the city maintenance, they found that the First Street bikeway has been way easier to maintain and manage with having that curbed or planter space in between the bikeway and the road. So applying that treatment to Division and now William Street as well is going to be an advantage, I think, all around. So looking forward to that. And those changes will be also happening this fall still. I think I covered most of these items, but just kind of reiterating the scope of some of the main construction activities. Yeah, construction had already started, so that's been going on for a couple weeks at this point. And then lastly, just a quick note on Huron Street that there are some landscape maintenance and plant replacements that are being scheduled with the contractor. And then we're continuing to work with AAATA on a design and placement for some enhanced transit shelters along Huron Street. All right, last one. Thanks for bearing with us here. Just an update on First and Ashley Street. So as you know, the 2-way traffic has been restored and has been working really quite well in our observations. There's little tweaks here and there to signage and some punch list items that we're still working with the contractor to get resolved right now. As you all know, the special lighting project that was being explored on Ashley Street between Washington and Liberty, that was not able to be advanced, but there are kind of tree pit and tree grate replacements that are being scheduled to still happen this fall as part of that punch list item. One thing I wanted to point, maybe it's a bit anecdotal, but I have noticed that with Ashley Street in particular being operating as a two-way street, and with all of the closures on Main Street for the commercial business street closures, that Ashley has been really instrumental in helping to support Main Street being closed more regularly and helping traffic to flow and get around downtown. So it's good to see that that's working and helping to provide more flexibility for people to drive around. And then this is, I think, my last slide. As part of our kind of ongoing data collection following construction, the team started to collect some transportation count data for bikes, pedestrians, and vehicles looking at different years. So the 2017 collection was prior to the William Street Bikeway being installed during the design phase. So we looked at vehicle counts, bikes, and pedestrian counts, compared that against 2021. And we are also planning to go out in December of this year to collect another round. The 2017 data was from December versus August 2021. But there are some pretty interesting trends that we're already seeing. On William Street, going from 286 bikes, and this is during the combined AM and PM peak hour, up to over 1,400 bikes is pretty incredible. So that's a 400% increase. The numbers are a bit smaller on First Street, but this was 2021 in August, when portions of the project were still under construction, and we're already seeing a pretty large uptick in bicycle trips. So when we collect the data in December of this year, it'll be interesting to see, because we'll be able to get a sense of how much the bicycle travel is really changing between summer months versus winter months. Knowing too that in August, U of M hasn't started yet in session, but we're already seeing some pretty enormous bicycle numbers for August. So it'll be interesting to compare those two, and we'll be able to provide an update on that when we have those numbers collected in the future. So I think with that, Maura or Chris, anything else you need me to cover or questions?
No, I just want to add, putting on my communications hat, just to let the board know that, communications and public engagement is an ongoing process, and we're never done, and we never reach everyone, right? So we continue to work on that. And I want to remind you that back in March, when we did public engagement for the first time, we also did paper surveys at the Delana Center, Miller Manor, and Baker Commons, and that was really successful, and we want to build on that. And the other piece that I'm excited about, via social media, I connected with the person from WISD who leads the team that works with the visually impaired, and they had some comments on our design. And so now the two teams are getting together early December. I think there are going to be some things in the State Street projects that we'll probably be able to incorporate, but it's just a great opportunity for us to learn from them and connect with another group of people. So I just want to let you all know that we recognize we are never done when it comes to reaching out to people.
Well, thanks, Maura, and thank you, Oliver. Does that conclude your review today, Oliver?
Yeah, I think so. It looked like Jonathan maybe had a question or a hand raised, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
Whatever your protocol is.
It's always hard for me to see him. It hides. Jonathan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tyler, and thank you, Oliver. Thanks for this presentation. It's exciting to see so much of this work moving forward, and I'm already appreciating the changes that have been made to date. A couple of questions to help me understand better. One is, I felt like on the division plan slides, at one point it suggested, I thought I saw a note about restoring two-way traffic, but that didn't appear. Then I got the impression that that's not what's happening. So just it'd be helpful to understand that better. And then secondly, I was really struck thinking about the curb management study. I love the changes to State Street, but I was surprised to see an actual increase in the amount of parking. And granted, parking spaces can be reconfigured, as one of our public commenters graciously noted that I've been talking about that on the radio. But I was surprised to see that parking turns out to be an expanding category on the State Street project. Love to understand better
Yeah, I can provide two, I can respond to both of those, I think. On the Division Street project, that there was reference on one of the slides to a two-way bikeway, but not anything about the vehicle traffic will stay as it currently is.
Thanks.
That's not anticipated to be changed as part of this round of implementation. And I think to your question about the State Street and the parking area, I think, and to Maura's point about communication being an ongoing need and imperative, I think how we frame that and talk about that in a shared street environment is something that we probably need to think about, because we haven't been looking at it as, an expansion of, on-street parking as people would typically think about metered parking, but as it's a flexible curbside lane. And so, our hope is that, businesses would be very proactive, and many of the businesses that we've talked to, are chomping at the bit to basically use that space as expanded sidewalk space, and not as parking at all. I think the two kind of most critical needs that we've heard from the businesses is more about loading space and being able to provide some more flexibility for that, rather than just typical metered on-street parking. The other thing that I'll mention too is that as part of that curbside study, the DD or our Smith Group is currently under contract with the DDA to do an update to the street design manual. And part of that work is also to coordinate with the curbside management plan that's coming out, if there is anything that needs to be incorporated into the design guidance for that. One of the pressing ones that we know that we're looking at are guidelines and standards for kind of parklets, platform dining, and also including how that would work and should work in a curbless street environment, like on State Street, so that businesses have some clarity and some consistency in how they ought to be utilizing that zone and make sure that it's safe for everyone. So
thank you, Oliver.
Yeah, no problem. Great,
And
great point though.
Add on to the Division Street question. When we went through public engagement in March, one of the projects that we heard talked about a lot from the community was restoration of two-way traffic on 5th and Division. And I can tell you that's something that's sort of on the DDA's wish list. It would take a lot of collaboration with the city, because Division runs, over the Broadway Bridge. It gets really tricky down there at that intersection, as we learned doing the pilot. But the DDA, we do have money in the CIP for studying that. And I want to say it's maybe 2024 or 2025. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did take dollars and dedicate them to studying those streets.
Great. All right, there we go. Good, not muted. Thanks everybody. That was an in-depth overview of a lot of the really public-facing work that is going on at the DDA. It's incredibly exciting. Personally, I'm extremely excited for the curbless street. I think that's going to be kind of game-changing. But there's a lot going on. So thank you all. Thank you, Oliver, for the review. Thank you for the questions, clarifications, everybody. There were no decisions made. This is just to keep the board informed of the work being done at the Capital Improvements Committee. There's no meeting scheduled for November. The next Capital Improvements Committee meeting is Wednesday, December 15th at 2021 at 11 a.m. So that wraps up the CIC, the Capital Improvements Committee update. And now we will move ahead to the Affordable Housing Economic Development, or AHEAD, committee report. I will turn it over to Jess Leetah. Jess, you have the floor.
Thank you. And speaking with and missing my co-chair, Jihye Kim. All right, buckle up, because this is a long one. We didn't meet, so there's nothing to report out. Kelly, can you help me know whether our next meeting is in November or December?
We do have one at this point for the 10th. It would be with partners if you and Jihye decide to go forward with that.
Okay, thank you. So I'll say our next two meetings are Wednesday, November 10th at 9 a.m. with partners. And then the one following that is Wednesday, December 8th at 9 a.m. With internal partners. Any questions about affordable housing or economic development?
Can I just add a quick plug for the next meeting? So this is This is a partners meeting where the AAATA will be doing a presentation on their long-range plan. So their Vision 2045, I think it's called, but they will be there giving an in-depth presentation.
That's right. Thanks for the reminder. And it actually sounds pretty interesting. So if you're interested in transit and regional transportation, this will be a great conversation to be a part of. Thanks for the reminder, Maura. And Tyler, I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you both. Yeah, that does sound like an interesting meeting to attend. Next up, the executive committee report. Another relatively brief report. We met, we reviewed the agenda for today's board meeting, and then we adjourned. We did get to meet Mr. Milton Dehoney, who we're very, very glad to have here today. And we look forward to getting to know him better, both at the city and here at the DDA. So thank you again for being here. The next executive committee meeting will be on Wednesday, December 1st at 11 a.m. Thank you all. Is there any new DDA business to discuss? Do we have any new business?
This is Jess. This isn't new business, and I want to ask Maura, Kelly, and Tyler if this is appropriate. But given that we're having Mr. Dehoney join us, I know it's challenging in the virtual environment, but I'm wondering if we could do a round robin of introductions, brief introductions.
Works for me.
Okay.
I think that's
business
great.
is getting to know each other.
Sure. I'm imagining, see if this jives with what you're thinking. We just introduce ourselves as board members to Mr. Dehoney, and he can give a brief introduction to himself. Is that what you're thinking, Jess? I'm seeing a net hop.
Yep, just quick. I know we're at the end of the meeting and everybody's ready to go on, so I don't want to extend it too long.
Sure, we can do brief ones. Mr. Dehoney, my name is Tyler Kinley, DDA board chair. I work in commercial real estate in downtown Ann Arbor and throughout Washtenaw County. This is my first term on the DDA, but I've been here for a few years now and I very much enjoy it. Jess, you want to take it away?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Mr. Dehoney. I'm the outgoing chair of the board and current co-chair of the Affordable Housing and Economic Development Committee. I'm the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Building Matters Ann Arbor, and I curate and participate in a number of policy conversations around Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County.
Mr. Massey.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Massey. I'm 10 months into my time on the DDA board, and I am the dean of the Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning at University of Michigan, where I also co-chair of campus-wide arts initiative.
Marie, you were putting your hand up. I'll let you take over here.
I'm Marie Clough. I'm the president and CEO of the Ann Arbor Art Center downtown. We've been down here for 112 years, or we've been existing in Ann Arbor for 112 years. I think I might be a veteran on this. I'm one of the oldest members of the DDA board, so I've been around for a while. It's lovely to meet you. Welcome.
Darren, are you with us? You want to introduce yourself? Camera's off, so you may be busy real quick here. Is Micah on? Might have had to pop out. Well, Mr. Dehoney, would you like to say a few words yourself and introduce yourself to us as we introduce ourselves to you?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be a part of the board. I'm glad to be in Ann Arbor. I'm on week number 2, so I'm still learning my way around. I've been in municipal management for 3 decades, working in Louisville, Lexington, Cincinnati, and Phoenix for the past 7 years before coming here. I'm very excited to join the organization. I'm always stoked about downtown growth and development, being able to be part of the solution as we address both the needs of residents as well as employees and stakeholders. And I always want to be accessible from the city government perspective for issues that come up pertaining to all of the great things that you were doing. So thank you for welcoming me. The only bad thing, it's going to be snowing here soon. And when I left Cincinnati 8 years ago to go to Arizona, I swore to my wife we would never be going back. And here we are. So we'll make that work out.
We'll make it work, but we can't promise there won't be snow. I think I saw some yesterday.
You did.
So
Yes, you did.
you're in for it. You're in for it. So thank you. Good idea, Jess. A little round robin of introductions. Appreciate your attendance here today, Mr. Dahoney, and we look forward to getting to know you better and working with you. Welcome. Welcome to the snowy city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Moving ahead, are there members of the public who wish to address the DDA board? I expect there will be. If you are attending by computer or phone with the Zoom app, please use the raise your hand function and I will call on you. At that time, please unmute your microphone, state your first and last name, and share your comments. If attending by phone / audio only, please unmute your microphone and request a comment. I will call on you. We ask that you state your first and last name and share your comments. You will have up to 4 minutes to speak. I see 2 hands raised. We can go to Mr. Haber first. Mr. Haber, you'll have the floor in just 1 second. You have 4 minutes to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I had hoped to speak at the beginning, but I was out at the farmer's market raising interest in the program on Sunday, the 7th, for growing community on the community commons. I'm Alan Haber. I live on 3rd Street. I've been involved in and greetings to Milton Dahoney. I've been involved in the development of the community commons since it first came on the city agenda in 2009. And I'm part of the initiating committee that has its function recognized by the city council as helping implement the recommendations of the Center of the City Task Force that was appointed after the city charter was amended to identify the center of the city public city-owned properties to be developed as a central park and civic center. And I've also on the Council of the Commons that was appointed by the City Council as advisory to how this Central Park and Civic Center is developed as a commons. And as always, I just speak for myself, though I'm involved in lots of things. And I have spoken numerous times at the Downtown Development Authority, encouraging the board to put on your agenda the development of the commons. The commons is a situation where commonly pooled resources are managed by the users rather than either by the government authority or by private corporations. It's a structure that is traditional all over the world until governments and private corporations began to privatize the public resources. It won the Nobel Prize in economics as the most productive way to use commonly pooled resources. And I'm urging that the DDA members inform yourself more about what is the commons and include in your board agenda a discussion of the commons. It's disturbing that in all the 36 months since this charter amendment was passed by the voters, that the DDA board has not really had a discussion in public among yourselves as to how to make this form of traditional social organization that's being developed all over the world in many cities, Bologna, Amsterdam, Seoul, Korea, part of Ann Arbor. It's an innovative form of organization and would be very beneficial in creating a vibrant downtown destination as a center of our city. And and Mr. Dahoney, you're also council appointed to be advisory, and you are the liaison for the initiating committee that the city recognized as the on-the-ground operating forward for the actual development of this center of the city, public city-owned properties that involve the surface of the underground parking structure, Liberty Plaza, the library lane itself, and the Kemp House, and possibly other properties that would be developed along with this as a center of the city, radiating all over the town and being a place of solidarity and mutual aid.
Time.
Our program on Sunday is called Growing Community. We hope you'll all come 2 to 6 on the library commons. Thank you.
Mr. Haber. Now we have a comment from Mr. Jeff Crockett. Mr. Crockett, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. As a follow-up to my, first of all, welcome to Mr. Dohoney. I'm going to be talking about the green team and the garden. I have conducted a number of tours of the garden. We have in the process of winterizing, but I would be happy to take you on a personal tour at some time at your convenience. I want to take this time to recognize the people who often go unrecognized, who were a part of this. I want to point out that no public dollars were used to, to create the garden. And when you think about value contributed, think about the value of 420 plus hours and what that means in terms of public contribution. It's perfectly in sync to what Alan Haber was talking about. This was community driven. So I'm going to mention Bonnie Pierce, Alan Haber, Odile Huguenot Haber, Chad Manfreda, Rita Mitchell, myself, and Bannister, Amy June Rowe, Joette Rioma, Eileen Tyler, Sue Perry, Sherry Thompson, my wife, Chris, Marcia Bentz. We have a variety, though, of credits to make, including Maura Thompson. Thank you to Maura for helping to remove the parking while we did our gardening work. Ali Wemlawi from Jerusalem Gardens, who provided water when the sprinkling system didn't work, the soaking system didn't work. Tiffany Giagopazzi, the city forester, who delivered wood chips. Dr. Ron Suarez and Amy Rose, who developed the website. Scott Spooner from Parks and Recreation. Robert Black, who's amazing, who is a consultant who basically helped us through a whole bunch of issues in terms of process, in terms of getting this started. He was absolutely amazing. He was formerly an architect from Sun Structures and has had a student and he teaches classes at Emerson. There's Linda Wan, a photographer. There's Wap John and Julie Ritter, who developed our sign, who worked for Refactory, who donated their sign. There's Jeff Henney from Zoom Management. I want to emphasize that the development of the garden is not just about the flowers. It's about creating community. And unlike Zoom meetings, we're talking about people getting together, working together, develop friendships, all volunteer, giving back to the community. It's not just about community, though, it's about education. Joette intends to enlist master gardeners, linking them with volunteers to teach them proper gardening techniques and potentially to hold classes. We are talking about sustainability. We're talking about, Missy Thompson,
1 minute.
Is expressed interest in this project and talked about creating solar lighting, a solar operated fountain. Joette Rioma is talking about creating a monarch butterfly program similar to the one that he has done at the Leslie Park Science Center of certifying one of these areas to attract monarch butterflies and bees through flowers. But I must say that throughout this, I have learned so much. I have appreciated the friendships I have made. And I encourage you all, if you ever get frustrated with downtown city politics, I have the solution. You can come and help us pull weeds. I can guarantee you it'll make you forget about all your other problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Appreciate your time. My buzzer is about to go off. Let me turn it off here. We have one more hand raised from Mr. Chris Simmons. Chris, you have the floor.
Thanks, Tyler. Just since this will be my last meeting prior to my departure date at the ride, just wanted to say thank you very much to the DDA board for your support through my almost 5 years here and your continuing support for the program. I know my boss, Mary Boonin, will be back to work with DDA staff and city staff to make sure that the program is staffed and continuing into the future. I feel like I leave it in good shape as we look at this recovery with lots of things for my successor to pick up and move forward. But just wanted to give my thanks to the board members, both present and past, for all of your support over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We will miss you dearly and your expertise and your attitude and positivity. So I miss you, Chris, and appreciate you your comments here. Do we have any further comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none, I'll move ahead. The next board meeting will be on Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. As more reported, we will hold the second of our required informational meetings at noon. The regular board meeting will begin immediately following the informational meeting. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting?
This is Marie. I motion to adjourn.
This is Jess, second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. Thank you all, and this meeting of the DDA is adjourned.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.